What up, gamers? I'm Jason.
I'm Julie.
And today on Dice & Dragons, we are going to be reviewing Euthia Torment of Resurrection. It is designed by Tadeáš Spousta and Markéta Bláhová and published by Diea Games. Hopefully I got all of that out correctly. If I mess up the pronunciation and you happen to watch the video, please let me know down below in the comment section. With that being said, Julie's going to take it away and tell you more about the game itself.
So first of all, we'd like to thank Diea Games for sending us a review copy. We do appreciate it. But we'd like to remind our viewers that, as always, our opinions will remain our own.
Yeah.
So this game...
She's very possessive of it, by the way.
My opinion? Yes, I am. So this game, it can be played solo. It can be played basically 1 to 4 players. Can be played in competitive or cooperative mode.
Yes, for ages 14 and above, and the time will vary greatly depending on the scenario and the player count. It can go up as low as 30 minutes per player and up to as long as 120 minutes per player.
So now, a 4-player game, keep that in mind.
Yes, I would say that if you're doing a 4-player game, you can probably get away with doing some simultaneous stuff if you're on other ends of the map, really to just make things move a little quicker. But let's now tell you what you're doing in the game. Well, you're going to be starting off on this church tile. You're going to have selected a scenario from the book. You have built your stack of tiles that you can see over there accordingly. And then you're going to be traveling around the realm of Euthia, fighting monsters, mining for resources, finding treasure, upgrading your character in a Diablo-like style. Now, just to give you an example of the upgrades, I left some stuff on the board here. Like I got a helmet, you got armor, we've even got rings that you can upgrade. You can even slide in some gems, which is pretty cool. So you're going to be doing stuff like that that's going to let you really take your character up to the next level. You also have this big reputation track, and you're going to be going through this reputation track, which will then unlock different abilities that will let you upgrade your character. Now, do you always want to be upgrading your character? Of course, but managing your gear and items is also incredibly important as well. So don't forget that. Did I miss anything at all, Julie?
I think you got it covered.
All right. On that note, we are now going to
grab our drink,
grab our fellow adventurer, and in this scenario, we're going to be playing co-op, our best friend.
We're going to take it to the table one more time.
One more time. I mean, if you look at this chart over here, last time you won, so hopefully by working together, I'll get to feel the taste of victory as well.
I'm going to kill some monsters.
Yes, you're really good at it. Now we're going to go through an overview of the gameplay for Euthia Torment of Resurrection. As this is a massive game, we can't quite get everything on camera. And what we want to do right now is just discuss the basics of the game, what your goals are, to give you a nice frame of reference for what Julie and I will be discussing in our review of this giant, epic strategy sandbox RPG. Now, you only see Maelder here. This is the starting space. I did have both characters of Ale and Maelder. They start on the church. Any tile that has something in the middle counts actually as having 4 spaces, the center space, and the 3 other spaces. Now, Ale's going to be sitting this one out, but I wanted to show the 2-player setup and also reference that in a 2-player game or any type of multiplayer game, for the competitive mode, the opponents will be controlling the monsters using this deck of silver cards. Now, the silver cards here have some nasty effects and abilities that they can trigger depending on the monster and the curse tokens that they have to trigger them. You also have symbols up here that will tell you in what sequence in combat they can be activated. But what we're doing in terms of the basics, we'll be using our actions and moving around the map. So we have our first action here, which is 1 movement or mining. So there are certain spaces that you can mine and you will gain rewards from that. I don't have all the tiles readily available, but the tiles will match the symbols on the spaces that you are mining. You can do a trade action in a town. When you're doing a trade action in a town, you'll be interacting with this board, and you can take any of the actions that are depicted, such as these ones here, getting a gar, healing 12 health, or buying any of the items or selling items. Also in town is when you will be unlocking the different ability slots or armor slots on your board, or once you've gotten to a specific reputation level, unlocking some of your skills. Like once you get to 6 reputation, you'll pay to unlock this. You will and you will be able to pick one of the 2 skills to keep and then potentially add to your board when you've got the money. This here is the reputation and round track. So here we'll track your reputation and then the rounds of the game, because certain scenarios will end quicker than others. So that's really the basics of those parts of the game. But let's take a look at what you do is like on your turn. So you move, try to move 1. So we're going to go, actually we're going to go up this way just because it makes things a little bit more simple. And what you then need to do is place the map tiles so that, and you can decide where you want to place them so that your character is surrounded by 6 hexes. So we'll slide this over and make sure everything is on camera. So that would be our first action. Now, if we'd like to go ahead and get into a combat, that's something that we can do, but we have to always make sure we have a combat action if we intend to do that. So just keep that in mind. We also have these portal spaces, which is a free action you can move through. We've got these elementals. If you got the elemental minis, you can put those up there. We've got the reference cards here for the different elementals. The one that I've got, right here is the air elemental. It'll tell you what happens if you decide to confront him, which is a free action. You can gain some cool rewards and even teleport. This side also just tells you how it affects the dice when you're getting into a combat. So keep that in mind. Things might not necessarily go your way if you're engaging with an elemental. One thing that's really cool, though, with regards to movement is you can move, teleport, by using the free action, and then complete your movement. So you don't have to finish all your movement or lose any movement points right away. You can take actions in between, which I think is really important. Here is a treasure space. So if you do move here, you would get a level 1 treasure. And the important thing to know is when you interact with the board, only you can do it. You will mark your specific token. So your hero token will just mark that you got a treasure. You will use hero tokens to also mark any defeated enemies. You have your mining / elemental token. So if you confront an elemental, it'd be here. If you mine, it would be here. An important thing to note, though, is to interact with any of these spaces that have monsters, you will have to defeat the monster first before you can interact with them. Now, we're not going to get a trade action in, but we'll try to do some cool stuff. So what we can do, actually, is we're going to move 1, 2, then we're going to get into a combat action. Now, in a solo or cooperative game, there is an app to help with this. Otherwise, you're going to be using this deck of cards that will tell you what actions the enemies will take. And what you then do, it's a level 1 monster. We can take the combat action. I haven't shuffled these yet. I'll just shuffle them up for good measure here. You can reveal the monster, and we end up with the level 1 bat. Now it'll tell you how many silver cards to draw, how many curse tokens, and how many Gar it has. Gar, which you can see on our board, can be used for rerolls and modifying rolls. As this is a solo game, even though you're not going to be drawing a silver card, the enemy would have a silver card in hand because you get one every time at the start of the round. And the curse token is what would be required to trigger it, and you're going to follow the specific sequence of events. There's some nice reference cards for combat, and as you can see here, you go through first strike, then the combat rounds, it goes monster attack phase, then the hero can heal again, then the hero attack phase, and then end of combat is only 1. There is 1 character left standing. Combat will continue until you have been defeated. Also notice here that you get a nasty negative -3 to your rolls. So keep that in mind as well. So the way things would work, you'd roll the dice for the monster. That is a big roll, which is a 10. Now, I could use my Gar to modify this roll, make him re-roll negatively. Not going to do that because I actually like the fact that we got a 10. Let me show you another aspect of the game. We have She's intervention, the god She, and then whenever a monster gets one of these values, you're able to modify this dice. It is always starting at 0 for every combat. Then you can use this in your favor. So 10 is a really nasty roll, meaning I'm going to end up taking 3 damage right there on my board. Now, I really want to hit him for 10 plus. It's going to be fairly hard because he got that nasty -3. But oof, I end up rolling this. Not great. And you can see with a 2 through a 5, this would then go up again. But for the sake of just keeping this overview quick, let's say that, for example, I did happen to roll a 6. We're going to lose 3, unfortunately, because of his negative effect. But we have this here, which we can then spend. The 1 value or the 3 values only during combat. This 2 value can be spent even after combat. So if you have 3, you can actually just do this one and then this one afterwards. But let's say we do this to add an extra +1, giving us the 3 damage we need to defeat the bat. So the bat will then be defeated. You will gain the rewards, the reputation, the gem, and the 2 silver cards. Silver cards can be cashed in for gold, or they can be used when you're playing a versus game. And they're very useful. You can also keep this monster as a trophy, but you've got limited space in your bags. So if you're keeping the monster as a trophy, you can either put it in your bag or just mark the fact that you're carrying your trophy as so. Now, it'd then be a new round. Reset your actions, go up on the round track, and you continue. If ever during a round you only happen to use 2 actions, you can store 1 that can be used for the next turn, and that's whatever action you have remaining. Now, we did defeat the monster, so we want to put this here, and then if we do take a trade action, you put it here because it's to our benefit. If another player, say AL, came along and wanted to trade here, well, they'd have to pay us gold to trade locations that we have since liberated. So that gives you an idea as to what you're doing with the gameplay. If you went here, for example, and you mined, you're the only one that could mine. You put your mining token. The only one that could confront elemental. Put your elemental token as you spread your influence across the map, which will affect the final game scoring and get you more points. So the idea really is get the reputation points, be the most famous hero, save the realm of Euthia depending on the scenario, and just be better than the other players. Like I said, this is just an overview. I haven't gone over everything. Joe and I will discuss this in detail in our review, and hopefully this was nice and clear for you. We did use the Game Boy Geeks tutorial to learn the game, so I would definitely recommend that you check that out. We read the rulebook and used that. It was very helpful. So with that being said, we're going to be coming back at you with our review of Euthia Torment of Resurrection. So Julie, what did you think of Euthia Torment of Resurrection? Hopefully I pronounced that right. I think I did, but it doesn't quite flow off the tongue, at least not for me. But I love the name.
So, I mean, there's a lot of content, as you can see. You might not even be able to see everything on this shot.
Yeah, it's kind of all over the place. There's a few things that we have organizers that we moved off the table. We do have some player aids that are taking up quite a bit of room as well.
So, I mean, one of my most favorite things are actual metal coins. Well, they're not actual coins, but I guess they are. They're just not legal. They're not legal tender. But, you know, that's a nice touch. And the nice little pouch. And
custom dice, because we got these as well.
Yeah, I particularly like the nice, I picked the purple, even though my character is not purple. It bugs Jason to no end. But
each character has their own dice, come on.
The purple dice are pretty. And the miniatures are pretty cool. I mean, you can see, there's a good selection of what you can see. We've got my character there that Jason just picked up.
Yeah, and all of them have a nice wash that is done on them so that it brings out the contrast a lot more. Same with the elementals that we have that are colored. So this is a fire elemental, but he's got a nice contrast job that's done on it as well to really make him pop and stand out on the table. So you don't need a lot of miniatures, but I think they did a great job with what they have in the game.
The components are really nice. I said to Jason when we first started playing, it's a little bit overwhelming, the amount of stuff going on. I mean, there's a lot of different gems. There's a lot of different components. It felt like a lot to me. And I would definitely say that it definitely takes a while to figure out how to play this game well. You can figure out how to play it, but to play it strategically, I think you have to take a lot of things into consideration.
No, and I agree with you. I think that we started off playing this game definitely not going in the right direction. Also, as this is currently crowdfunding, we are on a little bit of a time crunch to get this covered, and it is a longer game, playing at anywhere between 30 to 120 minutes per player. I'd say that this definitely clocks in, at least on our playthroughs, closer to the 60 minutes per player, if not a little bit more, depending on the scenario. But you can play that really long epic scenario if you want to. Now, everything that you're going to be doing in the game is fairly simple and straightforward. The real task to this game is figuring out how to move strategically and to best use your limited amount of actions in the scenario to max out your character. And I think what we both did that we probably shouldn't have done, so we focused a lot on, fighting monsters, upgrading some of our character stuff, whereas with the scenarios that we played, we probably wanted to buy some more gear, because that made a fairly big difference towards the end of the last play when we're fighting a lot of monsters. Having a nice big health pool, having health potions, and things like that can go a long way to keeping your character in the game. Also, finding and interacting with those water elementals is key. We were often mining as well on mountains, whereas water spaces are a lot more valuable. So it's just a few things like that we really could have done just a little bit better. But as I said, we were just scratching the surface of this game. We haven't gotten the chance to do a full deep dive as of yet.
Yes, I mean it definitely was interesting. I mean, you're rolling dice, so there is a lot of luck factor. When we've played this over a couple different turns, and there are times that I was rolling pretty well, and other times that I wasn't, and you were rolling pretty badly for a while as well. So that definitely has an impact as well. And then there's the randomness of the tile. You can't see it, but there are a lot of tiles available, so there's a lot. I mean, there might be some repetition.
You can see the map here, so that's what you get. And there's not too much repetition, but there's definitely a lot of similarities in some of the tiles, and it doesn't always come out in your favor. Like, for example, right here. I didn't
mean those tiles. I meant tiles that of the different rewards, the different things.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about the map tiles.
No.
Because you had a great point here. It's like sometimes they don't come out in your favor. We've got two portals that are right next to each other, which isn't what you want in this game.
No. So, I mean, that's all I really have to say about this. I mean, what would you like to add?
Well, I really enjoy this sandbox element of this game. We've played Runebound before, and this game feels a lot like Runebound to me, with a little bit more going on, but also simplified in terms of the actions. So more in terms of what you're trying to do, the way you can advance your character, the gear that you can get, but in terms of like just what you have to do on the map, I'd say it feels a lot simpler than Runebound, and I really like that. Also, the fact that the map is randomly generated from the pool of tiles, which changes depending on the amount of players as well as the scenario. It does make it a lot of fun and make all the scenarios, I think, a little bit more replayable than what you have in Runebound. Also, we played this game competitively and cooperatively, and I do say that it works well in both modes. I'm eager to see the new stuff that's coming for the game with the reprint on GameFound. We did find that using the app for the solo and co-op mode just to automate the combat in terms of what the monsters are doing definitely felt a lot smoother. I also like the fact that the way the game works in terms of having your character killed, it sucks, it's not fun, you lose reputation, but you're not losing like all your stuff. So that competitive aspect of the game works well with what we like to do. It's like, I'm going to get you, but I'm not ruining your plan. You're just fighting each other, but also advancing your goals. And if someone goes, spends all the resources to defeat you, well, they're going to have less resources to come and hit you with again later on. So I really like that.
I still prefer the co-op version that when we played, I just felt it was more along the lines of it. It reminded me a little bit of, the Lord of the Rings Journeys to Middle-earth without the story.
Yeah, each scenario really has its own story, and there's not all that interaction. But I'll agree with you on that. It definitely has a feel of Journeys to Middle-earth, especially with these hexagon-shaped tiles that you got there as well. And I like both modes. I think that both have enough to offer that you're going to want to try them depending on the group. And I don't think that it drastically changes up the game experience, because the cooperative is still sort of semi-co-op. You want to still be the mightiest hero. So if you play games like Marvel Legendary, just go through the final score, and that's really how you're competing. You're just not using the silver and gold cards to try to defeat the other heroes. But if your group is more competitive focused, feel free, go ahead, play that way. You're just going to have to find what is best for you. And as you can see so far with all of her stuff on the board, Julie's been doing a lot better than I have at this game so far. But we've really just started getting into Euthia. I'm starting to get the feel as to how we need to build our characters, what we need to do, and in terms of where we need to go on the map starting out, like, probably should have tried to get to a few different locations that we missed.
Spoiler alert, in case, because we haven't really come out and said it, but we did not win this scenario. We lost pretty badly, and that's why we're saying we probably didn't play this as strategically we could have.
I think we were closer than we thought. There's a slight hiccup in terms of what we had available for monsters, but we're doing okay. I think we might have fought a monster that was a little bit harder than we should have and was dealing a boatload more damage. It kind of felt that if we'd had the right setup and we hadn't made that mistake in terms of the card that we selected, we would have gotten very close to winning. It wasn't that we were completely far off. Some stuff really just didn't quite go our way. One thing that you'll notice here, there are these Dragon Slayer castle tiles, and I don't think Julie and I played very well in terms of getting to these tiles, liberating them, opening them up for some interaction so we could get some of the most powerful gear in the game. Gear is very important just as much as your ability, so you really have to keep that in mind. Also getting things like the essences from interacting with elementals to unlock the slots on your board cheaply. So lots of little things.
We say that, but that expensive, that good gear is also very expensive, and to do that you have to have resources, and we weren't swimming in resources either.
No, but we started getting a lot more towards the end as we made some better strategic choices, is what I'm saying. If we'd potentially geared up a little bit more early on instead of potentially unlocking some abilities, gotten some harder hitting weapons, then we could have, gone here, which as you can see opened up fairly early on in the game, this tile, because of how close it is to the church, which I don't know if you can see, but this is a water space. And typically going to the water spaces, you're going to get like 4 or 5 or 6 gold, plus whatever you're getting from fighting the monster. So it's just a few things like that you really want to take into consideration. But once you get the feel for Euthia, you're definitely going to slim down your playtime. If you are using the app, it's going to make things very quick in terms of the cooperative game, and you can definitely get this probably down to, I'd say, like closer to, well, it says right here, the 30 minutes per player. But that's going to come with more experience. We're not quite there yet, but I could definitely see this hitting the table again and being closer to 45 minutes per player. But really enjoying what I see here. I like this as an adventure game. If it wasn't for the soft spot that I have for Terranoth and Runebound being the first game that we reviewed on this channel, having played it with Sammy G and Julie, this one would definitely probably be kicking it off my shelf. Just to give you a little bit of a spoiler of things to come, because I like this a little bit more. But I know the world of Terranoth better, and we've played it a lot more. So I like going back to it from time to time. So on that note, Julie, what is your score for Euthia Torment of Resurrection? We haven't seen exactly everything that's offered, but we've experienced most of it, and definitely enough that we can give our opinion on it.
I'm going to give it a solid 7.5.
I'm going to go higher than you. I'm going to give this an 8. I think this is a really good game. The production value just puts it a little bit over the top for me. And we don't have very many sandbox games. And I really like the sandbox nature of this. And also the fact that the game plays well in both modes. Better than I actually thought when I was reading the rule book. Really has this just a little bit notch above. So great game. I think you should definitely check it out on GameFound. And this has the potential, I think, to go up. I think it could even hit 10 territory, possibly, with the additions to solo and co-op. Now, that's pure speculations. I don't think we've given it 10, or I think we've given 1 10 or a 9.5. But I like this enough to say there's a lot of potential for it to go up with the new content. That being said, it is not a cheap game, so keep that in mind. The link will be down below in the video description for you to go ahead and check it out.
On that note, it's time to remind you to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell to be notified when we have some new content for you.
And take a look down below in the video description. You'll find links to all of our social media feeds, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you'd like to see pictures of Julie and I playing Euthia Torment of Resurrection, there'll be plenty on those feeds. Also down there is a link to multizone.ca, a great Canadian game store. Click that link, you'll get 10% off your next purchase. It's a great way to support the channel, as a portion of that purchase will be returned to us. And then popping up in front of us are going to be links to some of our previously released videos. In front of me will be our most recent release. In front of Julie is going to be one of our oldest releases, one of the videos that we've done on Runebound. Actually, it wasn't the first game we reviewed, it was like the second. So anyhow, going way back in the past for us. On that note, we're going to
Grab our drink.
grab our best friend behind this giant box here.
We're going to keep playing games.
We're going to keep playing this one. I just don't know if we're going to be able to get this one out easily at a game night, because we know a few people that might take a little too long with this one.